Telephone Company Incorporated and Valstar Incorporated. New York State Business Corporations, collectively the company. The proposed project consists of the following. First, acquisition of interest in various parcels of land in the towns of Germantown, Claremont, Taconic, Livingston, Gallatin, Greenport, Hillsdale, and Clover, scattered amongst the southern Columbia County, New York, collectively the land, together with improvements and or replacement of existing utility poles owned by National Grid and other public utilities located herein collectively as the existing utility poles. Number two, the installation of utility poles of and approximately 293 miles of fiber optic cable, collectively known as the cables. Three, the connection of the cables to individual residences, businesses, collectively the connection. And four, the acquisition and installation thereof and therein of certain related machinery and equipment known as the land and the existing utility poles and cables of the connection and the equipment herein collectively referred to as the project facility. All of the foregoing to constitute a broadband fiber optic route B, granting of certain and financial assistance within the meaning of section 854-14 and of the act, which represent to the foregoing, including potential exemptions from certain mortgage recording taxes, collectively the financial assistance, and C, the lease with an obligation to purchase or sale of the project facility to the company or such other persons have been designated by the company and agreed upon by the agency. I intend to provide general information on the agency's general authority and public purpose to provide assistance to the proposed project. I'll open the comment period to receive comments from all present who wish to comment on either of the proposed project or the financial assistance contemplated by the agency with respect to the proposed project. The provisions, Chapter 1030 of Laws 1969 of New York, consisting of Title I of Article 18A of the General Municipal Law, Chapter 24 of the Consolidated Laws of New York as amended, and Charter 366 of the 1976 Laws of New York as amended, codified by Section 895-1 of said General Municipal Law, collectively the Act, authorizing the agency to provide development, encourage, and assist in the acquiring, construction, reconstruction, improving, maintaining, and equipment of the furnishing of the manufacturing, warehousing, research, commercial, and industrial facilities. The purpose of this public hearing is, after consideration of the application received from the company, the members of the agency authorize the Chief Executive Officer of the agency to conduct this public hearing with respect to the proposed project pursuant to Section 859-A2 of the Act. The Chief Executive Officer of the agency caused notice of the public hearing to be mailed to Claremont, Taconic, Livingston, Gallatin, Greenport, Hillsdale, and Clover, and the Germantown Central School District, Red Hook Central School District, Pine Plains Central School District, Taconic Hills High School District, and the Hudson City School District. They purchased on October 9th, 2020, posted in, on October 9th, 2020 in the Register Star, a newspaper of general circulation available to the residents of the towns of Germantown, Claremont, Taconic, Livingston, Gallatin, Greenport, Hillsdale, and Clover, Columbia County, New York. In addition, the Chief Executive Officer of the agency caused notice of this public hearing to be posted on October 9th, 2020 on the agency's website and also on the public bulletin boards located in the town halls of Germantown, Claremont, Taconic, Livingston, Gallatin, Greenport, Hillsdale, and Clover, Columbia County, New York. Now, unless there is any objection, I'm going to just waiving the full reading of the notice of the public hearing and instead request that all full text of the public hearing be inserted into the record of this public hearing. Is there any objections? The comments received today at the public hearing will be represented to the members of the agency at or prior to the meeting, with the members of the agency will consider whether to approve the undertaking of the proposed project by the agency and granting of the agency of the financial assistance to the proposed project. The notice of public hearing indicated that written comments could be addressed to F. Michael Tucker, Chief Executive Officer of the agency. No written comments have been received by the agency prior to the public hearing. Now, we're going to have, I don't know who's going to speak for the company. They'll explain the project in further detail. Bruce?
Do you want me to do that, Bruce? Or are you gonna
I'd like to ask Bill to give us an overview of the project,
sure.
please.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Bill Better. I represent the Germantown Telephone Company. Germantown Telephone Company took the initiative several years ago to seek and obtain assistance in providing broadband fiber optic coverage to all or parts of 7 or 8 towns and 5 different school districts in Southern Columbia County. All of this took place prior to the pandemic. And they set about to do this, and they experienced some difficulty. And the difficulty they experienced was well, first off, let me tell you the size of the project. It requires the installation of 293 miles of fiber optic cable that will serve over 5,000 customers. And the area being served is in all or parts of 8 different towns and 5 different school districts. The project was underway, and they experienced difficulty in the following method. The fiber optic cable has to be attached to existing poles. The poles are by and large owned by utility companies, and then a portion of the pole is leased in turn to Germantown Telephone for the location of this fiber optic cable. The way that the utility industry works is, if the pole is insufficient for the purpose of hanging this additional fiber optic cable, when I say insufficient, it's either too short, because there has to be spacings between the various wires that are already on the cable, or the pole is old and needs to be replaced. It is then the obligation of, in this case, Germantown Telephone Corporation, to replace the pole in its entirety. Once replaced, the pole then becomes the property of the utility company that owned the old pole. So Germantown Telephone set about this project, and in the course of the installation, it was determined, primarily by National Grid, that a total of 2,600 poles over this 293 miles of cable had to be repaired or replaced. That resulted in an additional $4 million cost to Germantown Telephone Company. In the summer, the Public Service Commission determined that it was a possible and authorized Germantown Telephone Corporation to borrow an additional $4 million in order to make this happen. Now, it's important to understand that one of the things that Germantown Telephone did in making this application initially was to make a commitment to the people that it served that the maximum per month charge for basic cable was under $60, was $59. Now, they agreed to do this. Their revenue was capped. They needed to borrow additional money to fix these poles and bring this project into fruition. So in order to do that, Germantown Telephone went to an entity called the Rural Telephone Finance Cooperative and borrowed the additional money. And what they wish to do today is to obtain an approval from the Columbia County Industrial Development Agency to save the money associated with the mortgage recording tax. They are not seeking to have an abatement or a reduction in sales tax or payment in lieu of tax agreement or anything like that. The state of New York assesses the taxation of the utilities infrastructure. All avoid is the mortgage recording tax, which only gets passed on to its customers. So what Germantown Telephone is trying to do is to get to the finish line, get this project up and operational. Germantown Telephone is a 115-year-old business, has 20 employees. It's a family-owned and operated business, and every penny they can save is more money that they can put into this infrastructure. Approximately 2 weeks ago, Congressman Delgado had a very well-written, lucid opinion in the Register Star, which indicated that broadband is probably one of the most important things that we can do in rural New York State. The pandemic has resulted in schools being providing learning services to their children remotely. As you heard from Chairman Pirro, there are 5 different school districts, the children of which are impacted. There are 7 or 8 different towns that are impacted by this. There are people who have relocated to Columbia County. There are people who run their businesses out of their home here now, all of which are serviced by broadband. And Germantown Telephone needs this assistance in order to conclude this broadband project. That's an overview, Mr. Chairman. If anyone has any questions, myself or members of the company would be happy to explain it.
Thank you, Mr. Better. What we're going to do now is we're going to open the public hearing for comment. By the operating rules, if you wish to make a public comment, speak up at any time. Please stand and stay. Well, you can't stand today, but state your address for the record. Now, when everyone has had an opportunity to speak, I will conclude the public hearing. A record of this public hearing will be prepared and reviewed by members of the agency in connection with the agency's consideration of the proposed project. Again, the purpose of the public hearing is to solicit public comment. We are not here to answer questions. However, we will have, in the course of the public hearing, consider questions if we have the information to answer the questions and there is sufficient time to consider such questions. I'll now ask if there's anyone in attendance who wishes to comment on either the nature and location of the project, facility, or the proposed financial assistance being complemented by the proposed project. So if there is anyone that's on that would like to speak, just please state your name and address. There's no one out there. Well, if there's no further comment or any comment at this case, I guess we'll close this public hearing. And I'd like to thank everybody for attending. And be closed, and it's 8:48.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chairman,
Bye-bye.
the IDA will meet this Friday at 8:30 to consider the project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks very much.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.